Thanks, Bob. Monica. As a country, we are now facing an opiate problem that is quite possibly one of the largest drug assaults on the American people in modern history. More and more people are falling victim to overdoses every single day, but it is a problem that as a culture we are having difficulty facing head-on. Tonight, Fox News First takes you inside the startling reality of America's opiate epidemic.
Metro 3, Delta overdose.
America is at war, battling an enemy that doesn't come with weapons and armor, but in pill bottles and plastic bags. The United States is in the grips of a national epidemic, and small, unassuming cities are finding themselves in its deadly crosshairs. Streets all across the American heartland are flooded with heroin at a rate that is unprecedented. The number of opiate addicts rose 425% last year alone, and the flow of black tar heroin across U.S. borders is rampant.
47,055 people died last year in the U.S. because of an opium-based overdose. That means before this interview is over, there'll be another 90 people that will have died today. And before the clock strikes midnight tonight, it's 129. We have to stand up, we have to take notice, and we have to confront it head-on, collectively as a society.
For the majority of heroin users in the United States, their addiction started with prescription painkillers and just spiraled out of control from there. So how do you start with a bottle of pills and end with a needle in your arm? Well, in many ways, it's the perfect storm. And for drug dealers and drug pushers who have exploited a nation obsessed with prescription painkillers, small and mid-sized cities just like this have become a primary target. Craig Wiles is the special agent in charge at the Dallas division of the DEA. I sat down with him to find out how heroin has found its way into some of America's most unassuming cities.
Well, let's face it, right? They're trying to follow a business plan. And the business plan, a successful business plan in any organization, is the path of least resistance. So a drug trafficking organization that can move heroin into one of our cities that we wouldn't recognize or think about as having a heroin issue can set up shop, piggyback off of methadone addiction, pain pill addiction, and set up their own shop.
Drug traffickers have recognized a harrowing reality in American culture. We are a country addicted to pills. In fact, the United States consumes more than 80% of the world's supply of painkillers, and enough prescriptions are handed out yearly to supply every single adult in the country with their own bottle. Dr. Stuart Platt is a professor of criminal justice at Abilene Christian University. His career has allowed him to see the scale of this drug problem from every angle, as the Inspector General for the DPS and as a federal prosecutor. He says the heroin pandemic is a direct consequence of the explosion of prescription drugs into the mainstream market.
What occurred is that much of America became addicted to opiate-based prescriptions, and that intersected with the black tar heroin trade because it was much cheaper once you became addicted. And so you found people using black tar heroin you would never expect to use it.
Opiate abuse is no longer the whispered affliction of street junkies and hardcore addicts. It is no longer confined to back alleys and urban wastelands. It is in our high schools, in our neighborhoods, and in the bloodstream of a generation that so desperately needs our help.
There's really an important role for education in this regard. Too many of these people should have been, caught before the overdose deaths came along by virtue of some sort of program they could have turned to.
The one thing I would ask every family to do is to have a conversation. Listen, we can't afford to wait any longer. We can't. We have to have an open dialogue. We have to have an open conversation. We have to have town hall meetings. We have to bring this out of the shadows. We're talking about a generation. We're talking about the possibility of a generation suffering an incredible setback.